and Mark. Okay, great. So I'll do the script. So we'll call the meeting to order at 9:02 on September 15th, 2020 for the Sign Advisory Committee. As a preliminary matter, this is Chris Young, Chair. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Kevin Kuster.
Here.
Paul Wolf.
Here.
Mark Catone.
Here.
Okay, and staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Kathy Flynn.
Here.
And anticipated speakers, please respond in the affirmative. Kathy Butler, or Karen Butler.
Karen Butler, I'm here.
Karen Butler, thank you. All right, good morning. This open meeting of the Sign Advisory Council is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we've been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with the agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the SAC is convening by video conference via Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided members of the body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. We're now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do, permit me to cover some ground rules for the effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I'll introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, I'll go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. And please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until I yield the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in a conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. After members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public that have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names and be acknowledged by and speak through the chair. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. Okay. So let's turn to the agenda. And the first item would be an adoption of the agenda. Would somebody like to?
Move.
Okay. Seconded?
Second.
All right. All in favor? Or actually, Mark, are you in favor?
Yes.
Kevin, are you in favor?
Yes.
And Paul, are you in favor?
Yes.
Okay, so we've adopted our agenda unanimously. Can we approve our minutes from the last two meetings?
Mr. Chair, do you see
Yes.
the agenda in front of you, you all?
I do,
Okay, good. Okay.
yes. So can we approve the minutes from the 18th of August and the 1st of September?
So
Anyway, Mark. Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. And Mark, are you in favor?
Yes.
And Paul?
Yes.
And Kevin?
Yes.
All right, I'm in favor, so we've approved the minutes unanimously. Is anybody here for public comment on an item that is not up for review on the agenda?
I
Okay.
do not see anybody here.
So we'll move to the first item, which is the Basket Museum application. And Karen, we'll let you introduce the application to the board.
Okay, we presently have a quarter board that would be on the southern side of the building, which is obscured by trees. And the more practical way would be to have it on the front side of the building to give more recognition to what's going on in the building. So we propose we're having that sign restored. It'll be the identical sign that's been there. We would like to center it over the 4 windows in the front. And so when you're driving out of town, you will see the name of the museum, and we think it would give us more recognition and help people also find our location.
Okay. Let's go down the members and see if they have any comments. Kevin, do you have any comments?
Kevin, you're muted.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Chris, can you refresh my memory about combinations on if they can be on the same side of a building?
Yeah, the guidelines don't allow for 2 wall signs on the same elevation.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought. I think that the front of the building is adequately signed the way it is. That sign to the right of the door is right smack in front of your face when you're at the stop sign. I think that I think that the trees that were planted are really fairly small and could either be moved or something if that's a problem. But they also, I noticed, have a 3rd sign that just recently went up on the flagpole. And I don't know if that was applied for or not. And I noticed that there's another sign around by the actual entrance. So in my mind, to move 2 signs to the front of a building, number 1, isn't in the guidelines, and number 2, they aren't anywhere near the entrance to the building. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Okay. Paul?
Would it make sense to what's been proposed to be moved over the door? I'm assuming that's an entrance, or at least it's potentially an entrance, to move the sign over the door and remove the sign to the right of the door. That's kind of a question.
Yeah. All right, Mark, let's get your opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with probably Kevin's comments. I have some concerns with certainly compliance to the guidelines. I do feel that the signage that's there is properly identifying the structure. I think the larger sign actually is successful on the other elevation where it exists today, where it can be viewed from a distance. And the approach to this building along Francis, I believe, that sign is visible as you approach it and arrive at that stop sign. It's not visible for those traversing in the other direction, and traffic only flows in one other direction there. So I'm probably not in support of the application as proposed.
Okay. And it's interesting. My opinion was that it was sort of a combination of what you guys have said. I think that the quarter board on the gable end was actually an exception when it was approved, because there's no door on that end. So that was done at their request originally to try to get more visibility coming down Orange Street. But or Union Street, I should say. But I think it's more appropriate over the doorway, as Paul suggested, the large quarter board sign, but it would mean removing the smaller sign from that elevation. So I think we all have, Karen, let's get your opinion on what we've been saying here. I mean, is it?
I hear you. One option I'm looking at was the quarter board as we presented it was over the 4 windows. If it went over the door, to me, artistically, it didn't look quite as nice. I could show you a picture. Can you see that? To me, it was askew. But if it was over the door with the smaller one being removed and maybe put around on the other side where the actual entrance to the building is, by the door that you see there where it says no parking, would that be an option?
And is there, to address Kevin's comment, is there a flag sign that has gone up in the interim?
We have we just had a flag made that said Nantucket Lightship Basket.
Okay.
The flagpole is not a commercial grade, so we couldn't make a
Yeah.
large flag. So we have two flags there, one American flag, and below it is the emblem of the Basket Museum.
Okay, so technically that their flag signs are a type of signage that's in the guidelines, so that would count towards total signage and should be applied for as part of the overall signage package, so to speak, or plan for this property. So ultimately that should be included, I think, in the application as a separate application for the flag sign, but it should be sort of reviewed in its entirety. So that sign is considered part of the overall, because there's a limitation with how many signs you can have, and based on combinations. Now you can't have a wall sign and a flag sign; those are allowed in combination, but that should just be part of the application. So let's go. I'm going to go back down the line. Kevin, based on Karen's response, do you have any follow-up?
I guess frankly, I think the building is more than adequately signed. And what's interesting about it is that really none of it is pointing towards the entrance, which is supposed to be part of the goal. I think this building, like I just said, I think it is adequately signed. I think it looks great. The signs are well made. They're well positioned, and I would leave it at that. I'm not in favor of this application. That's all.
Okay. And Paul?
I could go either way. So I think if right now it seems like we have two people interested in changing it and two people interested in keeping it the way it is, I can be flexible on that and not change it. Keep it the way it is.
Okay, and Mark?
Yeah, I think the more I think about it, I'm inclined to keep it as is. I'm not seeing a strong reason now. With certainly the understanding that the existing wall sign would have to come down if they were strong on keeping the larger sign. But I do think it works better on the gable end as viewed from Union. Yeah, I think maybe to Kevin's point, it's probably adequately signed at this point, and I'm not seeing the strong need. That said, I guess if they were coming into us cold with no signage on this building and they were requesting just that large sign on the facade facing Francis Street, the main facade, would we approve it? I guess it's sort of a question to maybe some of the other SAC members.
Yeah, Mark, that was my thought, is that really, it's kind of the applicant's right to apply for what, they want, and we're trying to determine, is it appropriate? Whether it's an improvement or not, that's another question. And that's where I agree with Kevin and Paul that Karen, I think you've actually got an exception to the guidelines here by allowing that gable end sign, which typically wouldn't be allowed, and is giving you great visibility coming down Union Street. However, if like as Mark says, if you just came in and asked for that quarter board above the door, I kind of feel like it is an approvable sign. I mean, it is an approvable sign. I
guess I'm having a hard time denying the application based on that alone, that it is technically probably approvable, provided that other sign comes down on the right side of the door. Whether we think that's an improvement is probably not, doesn't really need to be part of the conversation. So
right.
If that were their application, I guess I would need to approve it based on the guidelines alone. That makes sense.
Chris,
Yeah. Yes, Kevin.
I think that I think part of the problem with, or not the problem, but what's accurate here is that that is not an entrance. And to have the primary, if you're only going to have one sign, even with both of them, that is not the entrance to the building. So,
Well, I will say by precedent, we have never identified whether that's an active entrance. It is visually an entrance. We certainly approve signage on Pleasant Street for the insurance company. They installed the door, I think, to get the sign. And for a long time, there was not even a stoop under that door. So, going all the way back to Dan's Pharmacy, they too had a sign over a door, which was not an active door, but was a present door. So visually, I think the sign ends up being in an appropriate location, whether the tenant chooses to make that an active door or not, ends up being sort of on them. But I don't know if that's an argument necessarily, because that clearly is like couldn't read anymore as entry. And if the sign is more is placed closer to the entrance, then that's probably more in keeping with our guidelines. I don't know that we've ever weighed as to whether that's an active door.
yeah,
or not.
I hear what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying.
We don't use it for people entering, but by the fire code and all, it could be opened, it could be used.
Yeah.
The other little thing that's probably out of your domain, that to me is somewhat problematic. Our building has been hit by cars twice in the last 2 years. I'm not saying a sign would draw more attention, but it could. Just recently, they did a hit and run with the porch, and the year prior, they hit that right corner, plowed right into the foundation. Now, obviously, we can't control what people do in the middle of the night, but it's also to us that we would bring more attention to ourselves with the sign on the front of the building.
Yeah, I don't think that would weigh into our decision necessarily, but so noted. This is one where, Mark, I lean towards your opinion, which is that, we're here to judge the validity of the application as far as complying with the guidelines. I think that, Karen, we would need to see the flag sign be brought in just so that we understood how that is part of the package. And, the guidelines do allow for an additional sign, given that this is the ultimate corner lot in that it has 4 sides of public access as far as streets. So I think that you could probably still have a sign around the back door as well. But it'll go to a vote. Ultimately, it'll be passed up to the HTC, the full board, for their review and approval. It might go up with a sort of a mixed review from this board. But does anybody want to make a motion, or should we hold this to include the flag sign as part of the application?
Chris, can I ask a question first?
Sure.
If we were to approve it, it means moving the small sign that's on the front of the building now. Where would that go?
Right. And I think having the flag sign as part of I think putting this together as a formal, proper application makes sense. Karen, I'm assuming that there's no big rush here, that this could be, this could take a week or 2 to get through the process, and it wouldn't
The corner
affect you.
actually has been removed because there was some wood rot, and it's been sent to Jean Petty off island to restore. And I don't expect it back from her for a month.
Okay. Okay, so I think to Paul's point, we'd like to know where exactly that other sign would end up, if that's what the application is going to ask for, as well as putting a flag sign application in, and then we can review it. That makes sense procedurally. as well as just, submitting that plan that you have the photograph of there with the quarter board over the door.
For the center one and the smaller one removed, is that what I'm hearing?
You can call me.
That's what,
Call me when you can.
it's sort of your call. You're going to resubmit it. If I'm reading the current, well, it's funny. I'm not sure how I'm reading the current board. Let me go back. Kevin, would you be, I know that your comments so far have been saying you think it's adequately signed, but if they wanted to reapply or amend the application, how do you feel about that?
I think if it were a new application, I would be looking for a smaller quarter board. I don't know that we've ever, I mean, once it goes over the door, doesn't it kind of become a little more traditional? And I'm just not sure if what I'm looking at measurement wise is accurate at this point. So
Board is 8 feet long,
8 feet long. How high is it? How tall is it?
12 inches.
Okay. So 8 square feet.
that's over, isn't it?
No, no. A wall sign would be 1 square foot per linear foot of the elevation, a maximum of 20.
Okay. I think, I don't know. I think that I disagree with Mark to a certain degree on that. Yes, we're to follow the guidelines, but in this case, I think what's existing is far better than what's being proposed. And at the end of the day, we're left with what we see, not with what's in our guideline book. So I think it was thoughtfully done to begin with, and I don't think the issue has to do with people not being able to find the building. So I'm in favor of it just remaining the way that it is. I don't know if there's a master sign plan or not. I think that the flag should get submitted as well if they want to keep it. That's all.
Okay. And Paul, do you want to make any comment?
Oh, no comments.
Or motion? Okay. Or Mark?
I don't have any additional comments at this time.
Okay. So we need to make a motion of some sort. It would be, I think the options are approve, deny, or hold for revisions.
Hold for revisions.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Are we, Paul, are we holding, are you suggesting a holding so we could review the flag?
The flag and the location of the small sign.
Okay, I would second that motion.
Okay. So the vote would be then Kevin?
Kevin, you're muted.
How's that?
Okay. Can you repeat?
So
Could you, I'm not sure what the motion is again. Is it?
it's a hold for revisions to include a complete sign application, which would include the flag and the ultimate location of all the signs, the 2 wall signs that the applicant
Okay.
wants to have on the building.
So just so I'm clear with it, this motion is not for 2 signs on that wall. Is that correct?
I think we've made it clear that, yeah, that would not be approvable. We're just suggesting that we hold for revisions. So Karen, you would have to be the one to decide what your new application will look like. But I think the board is saying for sure there won't be 2 wall signs approved on that front elevation. And it should include the flag sign as well.
Does it make a big difference if it's centered over the windows or over the door?
Yes.
What are the thoughts?
Yeah, I think centering on the door is the more appropriate location according to the guidelines and according to our sort of precedent. So I think that would be
The way to go. Okay.
the way to go. From what I'm reading of the board, I mean, you can again apply for what you want and then it would get reviewed as a new application, but I believe I'm speaking for the board in that.
In the application for the flag, do you just want a picture of the flagpole with the flag on it? Is that satisfactory?
Yeah, that, and I think the size of the flag would be important as well. Just make it, is it 3 by 5 or what's the size? But a picture of the flag would be, would suffice.
Right. Now, just a question. I'm applying for this. I've driven around looking at other places. Let's say the Sea Grill, for example. They actually have signage on 3 sides of their building. How does that factor in compared to the Basket Museum?
Well, actually, let me back up. So now we're in the middle of a vote. So let me conclude that. I think we had a request for clarification by Kevin, which we've clarified.
You have a motion and seconded.
Yeah, so we're waiting for a vote. So Kevin, did you want to cast a vote?
Yes, I think we should always be in favor of holding for a revision, so yes.
Okay. Paul
Yes.
and Mark?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm in favor as well. So Karen, just to reply, I think that, well, I'm not sure. How should we handle this?
Well,
would you like?
There's also 3 signs on this building, so I don't
Incorrect,
understand the
yeah.
comment.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Sure.
So Karen, due to the pandemic, there have been several waivers regarding HDC applications and small structure renovations. And the Sea Grill is part of that because they were suffering from the pandemic. So they were allowed to put signage without applying. It's temporary and it's part of the emergency order 11 for signage and altering structures. So there are many signs you see downtown and dining establishments that would normally not be approved, but because of the pandemic, they're allowing it to. So that's probably their explanation for that. So.
Okay. Thanks for that clarification. And I think following up is that, as I said, there's also the option for additional signage when there's more than one street frontage. And I think that the Sea Grill also qualified under that, as does the Basket Museum. So in that case, likely have signage on the backside as well as the front would be approvable. But anyway, so I think we've concluded this then. Karen, I hope that we've given you some feedback you can work with. And we'll look forward to reviewing the revised application.
Very good. Thank you.
All right.
So much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, next item on the agenda is 18 Broad Street, which is for Ben's new sign.
Yeah.
Is Ben on the line? No.
I don't think he is, but just so you know, Mr. Chair, there is a representative for Stop and Shop afterwards.
Okay.
Okay,
Great. So one thing I can say is knowing that this was formerly the location of Peter Kyberg's law office, and this sign that Ben's applying for is in the same location as Peter Kyberg's old wall sign. I can just, I recognize that when I looked at this application. So it's not a new sign going in a new location as far as it's a new sign, but it's not a new sign location on the building.
Mr. Chair, I have no concerns.
Okay. Paul?
No, I have no concerns. I'm assuming based on what you said, it goes with the master sign plan, which we put together a couple of years ago.
Right. And Kevin?
You're muted, Kevin.
Sorry about that. I'm not paying attention. No concerns. Motion to approve.
All right,
Second.
do we have a second? Okay,
Second.
Mark. Kevin, are you in favor?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
All right, I am as well, so that passes unanimously. All right. Then we have,
So his name is Robert DePaul. Robert, are you on the line? I asked him to unmute.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, are you on video or are you just on audio?
I am on video and audio, both,
Okay.
obviously.
Okay, right. Okay, so,
all right, so we'll give you the floor since you're introducing something new to us here.
Sure. Thank you very much. What we're simply trying to do is, this is a store-wide initiative. Most of our stores in the Eastern Division would like to add a little curb appeal and a little holiday enthusiasm when you enter our properties. I believe you have a tear sheet of the banner that we'd like to install. There are 10 light poles, 5 on either entrance side that we would like to put them on. The duration would be several days before Thanksgiving, and they would be removed several days after the new year. They're all professionally made. The manufacturer is well known in the industry, and we just think that would add a little, just a bit more curb appeal to the Stop and Shop parking lot during the holiday season. It's as simple as that. There's no curb balls or anything. That's all that we're trying to do. We'll be responsible for taking them up and putting them down.
Okay, let me go down the board. Kevin, would you like to comment?
This is a tough one. I'm all in favor of the holiday spirit. However, I think frankly this would just contribute to more clutter, and I'm really afraid of what the precedent might be. I mean, right now we have quite a process for people that want to put banners up on Main Street, and if all of a sudden we waive that for the sake of advertising a holiday, I think it's kind of a slippery slope. So, if they want to put a wreath on the pole, no problem. But I think this is, and this probably works fine on the mainland and in a more urban environment, but I'd prefer that we remain as uncluttered as we can. So those are my comments.
Okay, Paul?
I have a question. How many of these flags are there?
It'd be 10, 6 on one side and 4 on the other. I think there's 4 on Sparks Avenue and there's 6 on the Pleasant Street side. We didn't want to put them, totally in the entire parking lot. We have, I think, 28 poles, and we thought that that would add to, as you say, the concern about clutter. So we're just trying to put them by the entranceways.
I don't have any more questions.
Okay, Mark?
I was discussing this with Bob Cratchit earlier, and he and I agree that's probably a waste of money. Anybody get that? That was a joke. Anyway, I don't see the need for these, honestly. I think it's a mainland move. I think it makes us look more like Hyannis and other communities, and that's not what our goal is here. It's drawing attention to a light pole, which is not terribly attractive to start with. I agree with Kevin. If you want to run garland up it and white lights or hang a wreath on it, go for it. But a banner that's up for whatever 6 weeks or so doesn't seem appropriate. And I do think it is a precedent that we could have other businesses with light poles in their parking lots that would say, oh, it'd be great if we also put up some sort of banner through spring season or summer season or whatever it might be. So this is not something I would like to encourage. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Bob.
I think, unfortunately, I have to agree. None of us want to be the downer on the Christmas spirit, but I think that I actually feel more strongly than the other board members that this is inappropriate, just because the guidelines are so specific about banners. And this would absolutely be setting a new precedent for the island that we've been working so hard to really control how banners are used. Unfortunately, it's just not the Nantucket style. So I don't think that this would receive any kind of positive review. So none of us want to be the one saying this, but I think we all agree it's just not in keeping with the Nantucket streetscape vernacular. So, next steps, if they would need to be applied for, but I think it's pretty clear that they wouldn't be receiving a positive recommendation.
Gentlemen, not a problem at all. Totally understood. I'm glad we came before you and just didn't put them up because that would have put us in harm's way. So thank you very much for your time.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Have a good day. Thanks a lot again.
Merry Christmas.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Are there any other items on our agenda that we need to discuss?
I don't have anything.
I did put on other business discussion of mission statement that actually was brought to my attention from the public outreach coordinator when she was changing the statement that Kevin wrote to town administration. So didn't know if you wanted to maybe think about drafting something for the website for a mission statement.
Okay.
Not necessarily discuss it right now, but just think about it. And
got it. Should we let's put that in everybody's mind and come up with, okay.
Yeah.
No real timetable for that, Kathy?
No, not really.
All right.
Just something to think about for the future.
Got it.
I think it's a good thing to do. I think today we hit on a few things just with these couple of applications. So
Yeah.
It just might, in today's environment, also be helpful.
Okay. Does anybody want to make sorry, Paul?
I have a question for Kathy.
Yes.
NIR, you did a good job in getting the one-way signs changed on, I guess it's on
Aaron away.
Union Street.
Yeah.
But they still exist down on, I think it's North Water, or down by where the old.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I will address that.
Is that part of your conversation with them?
I can have another conversation with them. Yes.
Because they're
I'll
still there.
address that. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Excellent.
And I don't know if you all noticed, but the house for sale sign came down
good.
Which one?
with the brochure stand.
Great. Nice job.
Well, it's nice of Linda to join the meeting and understand the process. So,
Okay. And I saw that the Builders Association, that email went out to try to get the construction signage
right.
understood by them, and
Right.
that'll be helpful. I'm glad Leslie's taking a lead on that.
Yes. We've seen several signs that are out of the guidelines, so we want to get that in the bud before that gets out of control. So,
Excellent.
okay.
All right. Would somebody like to make a
adjourn.
motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. Paul, you in
Roll.
favor?
I
Kevin?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
And I am as well. Thanks, everybody.
We'll
Thanks,
see you in
guys.
2 weeks.
Have a good
Bye.
day.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right.